All right, well, welcome to the Town of Bridgewater's Hazard Mitigation Plan listening session, public listening session. I'm Michael Dutton. I'm the town manager in the Town of Bridgewater, and I will introduce Elijah Romulus in just a moment to lead us through the discussion and solicit some comment from those that wish to comment. The Hazard Mitigation Plan is designed to assist a community in identifying its natural hazard risks and determining how to best minimize and manage those risks in order to lessen the damage done to a community by severe weather and other emergencies. So Elijah will walk us through. This process is part of an overall planning process designed to culminate in a plan that we can help inform our zoning and work that we do locally. So Elijah is a planner at Old Colony Planning Council. We have asked Old Colony to guide us through this process, and they have graciously agreed to do that. Lori Muncie is also here from Old Colony Planning Council and is also assisting in the hazard mitigation planning effort. So Elijah, I will turn it over to you to present and guide the discussion.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the introduction. Yes, so thank you for joining us this evening. And for those that end up watching this recorded session, thank you for tuning in. My name is Elijah Romulus. I'm the Senior Comprehensive Planner. I'm joined by Lori Muncie. We both work at Old Colony Planning Council, and we assist cities and towns in planning for present and future needs, utilizing our local knowledge, technical expertise, and regional collaboration. Our acronym is OCPC, and so we're a regional planning agency in the South Shore. We assist 17 communities in natural resource and environmental planning, transportation planning, comprehensive land use planning, economic development, geographic information system services, and we also have an area agency on aging to assist our elder population in the region. So yes, today we're going over the hazard mitigation plan, and some of the members that made up the core team that either directly or indirectly contributed to this project are listed here, including Mr. Dutton, who was speaking in the beginning. So it was touched on a little bit earlier, but what exactly is an HMP plan? In the planning world, you'll come to know that there's a bunch of acronyms. So HMP actually stands for Hazard Mitigation Planning. It helps reduce loss of life with prevention of natural disasters or the impact from said disasters. It begins by identifying the risks, the vulnerabilities that are common locally. After identifying those risks, there are long-term strategies developed for protecting people, property, and I would also add, the natural environment from similar events. It's important that the town have a hazard mitigation plan in place to maintain eligibility for funding from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA. So just a little bit of background as it relates to the preparedness for natural disasters and increasing the town's resiliency. This is in response to a changing climate that we're seeing, and some projections that we have for the end of the century include rising temperatures. As you see, up to an increase of 10.8 degrees annually by the end of the century. Changes in precipitation, 18% increase in consecutive dry days, also a 57% increase in the days with large rainfall events, And, some people may say, like, how are we having dry days as well as significant rain events? But that is the changing climate. You have concentrated time where there's a lot of rain, but then you're followed by days that aren't rain. And so those are some of the scientific projections that have been seen for the end of the century. Also an increase in sea level rise, as you can see. Just to think back to last year, 2021 in July was the warmest, Boston had the warmest and third wettest summer on record. July itself was the wettest record, the wettest July in the history of the Commonwealth. So in the history of Massachusetts, last July was the wettest. And so these kind of extreme weather events are occurring. And so this is why we're here to prepare for them. And as you can see on the side, there have been some photos provided by folks that have taken our survey. And so I threw them up here to give you a visual of some of the events that have occurred in the town. And so I'll be going over some of the goals of this hazard mitigation plan. There's a set of goals that were discussed and deliberated on, and then there is also a set of action plans to follow that. So the first goal is to be prepared to reduce the loss of life, property, infrastructure, and cultural resources throughout the town from natural disasters through a multiple hazard mitigation program that involves coordination, planning, education, and capital improvements. The second goal is to incorporate hazard and climate change vulnerability into capital planning, master planning, and facilities management functions, and implement proactive solutions to adapt to climate change. The third goal is to investigate, design, and implement projects that will reduce and minimize the risk of flooding. The fourth goal is to organize and prepare to provide adequate shelter, food, etc., to inventory supplies at existing shelters, develop a list of requirements, establish arrangements with local vendors and shelters to prepare in the event of a natural disaster. And the fifth goal is to increase awareness of hazard mitigation activities among town officials, private organizations, businesses, and the public through education and outreach activities. So those of us joining us tonight are helping us fulfill this goal itself. So thank you for being here. And so just to touch on some of the strategies in the action plan, I won't be going over every single action item. I'll just be going over the high level ones, but just to review, some of the measures for those actions included, like, the actual title of the action, the description, how much it could possibly cost, and basically the amount that it costs would then increase the priority. And then the potential funding sources that are involved, what departments in the town would take the lead on those action items. Are there possible partners in the community that would aid with those action items? And then an implementation schedule within the 5 years of the plan, because every 5 years, this type of hazard mitigation plan gets updated. And so what are we going to do within those 5 years? Yes, and then so the categories for this include, what the relevant mitigation plan goals, the type of the mitigation project, the critical facility protection, is that involved in that action plan? Is it going to protect a critical facility like a dam or water treatment plant, stuff like that? Community components such as the infrastructure and the environment, and then the different hazards that are addressed that the action plan addresses. So does the action address the case in case of a nor'easter hitting us, or is it in case of a blizzard, or is it in case of an earthquake? And so those are kind of the things that that dictate how the plan was written. Just an image from the Enterprise. There was a storm in August of 2020. And so I think this is, I believe, on Union Street. So just it was a microburst that came through the town. So these are some of the things that we're trying to plan for, and how do we respond to those these kind of scenarios. All right, so the first category of action plans was in the global cross-cutting hazards. And so that included looking at creating a comprehensive emergency management plan. And I won't, the titles, the descriptions, as you can see, are here. I won't read through every part of it, but just to give you an idea, it's to develop internal protocol and policies on the town side, as well as their community partners, on what it is to actually implement a plan and adhere to it. Emphasis is on the emergency response, the mitigation, the preparedness, and how to recover from these emergencies. It helps to organize information and supply chain and inventories. So that's one of the action plan items. Another one is looking at the infrastructure capital project and preparedness and response. So looking at obtaining funding to supply shelters with food, water, and resources, recruit volunteers to assist the shelters. And as I had mentioned before, you can see here, like just for your sake of understanding the picture in whole, we see that the different goals that this specific action addresses are goals 1, 2, and 4. This is the description here that I just read. There's potential lead departments that would be addressing this. The partners in that would then be, potentially emergency management, board of selectmen. The cost is very low. It's something that it's more of just, figuring it out and identifying and creating a plan, as opposed to, creating something. And then possible funding sources are listed here. The kind of hazards that would kind of preempt this would be, changes in precipitation, floods, droughts, rising temperatures, extreme weather like hurricanes and tropical storms or blizzards. And then the type of mitigation project, it's a local plan and regulations, addresses the social vulnerabilities that may or may not be there. And then community components, the social vulnerability, as I mentioned, and then the implementation schedule is within the 5 years that's implemented. So I won't go through that with every single item, but I just wanted to give a quick run through so that, if you're seeing these, you can kind of understand what's going on. And so the third action item is, local emergency planning committee, create an emergency response network and a medical professional network to coordinate professional and volunteer-based emergency and medical response teams. Kind of in line with the previous ones, just coordinating emergency management planning with climate change vulnerabilities that include vulnerable populations and road system interconnectivity. It's very important to identify, the routes to kind of get people in and out, get supplies in and out, and protect infrastructure. The fourth goal, or at least one of the high priority goals, was a multi-department review of subdivision and site plan review applications. Multiple departments within town review and comment on site plans before development, most effective for new construction. And, some of this is some things that may be currently in practice, but things that can be enhanced, and identifying the different areas that can be improved. Let's see. The next action item is conduct one exercise annually involving members of the public regarding the 4 phases of emergency management. And that action description includes increasing public understanding of each person's role during a disaster, including public health issues such as pandemics. Record information from the exercise for broadcast on public access television and on the town website. So just like tonight, we're recording this session right now. We will then be having this posted on the town's YouTube page as well as their town website. And then we'll be reaching out to BTV to then also have it on public access. So as you see, like some of these things that we're able to, have listed and make sure that we actually go through with it, and as we do right now. So the next action plan, mass gathering plan. The description is develop a plan that includes policies, procedures, and protocols for conducting mass gathering events. So, say there's a festival happening, just what are the parameters and safety protocols around large, festival events, and making sure that emergency response is notified. Those are some of the things that would be involved in an action item like this. And so the next set of action plans are related to inland flooding, and they are as follows. A floodplain education and awareness, develop education and outreach to residents living in flood-prone areas to ensure that all individuals and families residing there are aware of potential risks, as well as mechanisms to reduce their risk exposure, such as flood insurance, target renters, as well as property owners. I'm sure, many people in the region and throughout the state, honestly, have been looking at, flood insurance issues. And so this is something that, we want to make sure that folks are aware of, that can help them either prevent a disaster or, prevent a disaster, whether that is environmental or financial. The next action item is identify flood-prone areas and conduct an inventory of culverts and bridges. Create a prioritization plan to improve infrastructure and lessen the likelihood of loss due to climate change. Culvert maintenance and repair plan with long-term implementation. So looking at, which ones need to be, improved on, potentially replaced. Is there green infrastructure and low impact design that can be implemented in certain areas or integrated with the hard infrastructure to improve the establishment of, the approach in the face of natural disasters and climate change scenarios, and then also meet Massachusetts stream crossing standards. The next set of action items are related to specifically dams. And so one project in Bridgewater that you may or may not be aware of that's been in the works is looking at the High Street Dam and how to address it. So this action item is the High Street Dam removal and bridge replacement. I won't read through all of this, but if you have the time to go back, just looking at how the dam kind of affects the river and the surrounding area and what the town is doing to address it. The next action item is in relation to drought hazards. Identify and protect water supplies for a time of drought. So investigate the need for emergency water supply interconnections for drinking water supply to restore more natural flows to the water system. Water supply ownership must require maintenance to ensure drinking water purposes. The next one is research options, cost, funding, and acquisition of backup water resources, including increasing storage capacity. So looking at long-term waterline infrastructure investments into the well system and treatment for the wells. Assess what the infrastructure looks like and where improvements can be made. Dead-end water lines, lengths of pipe that do not have the flow needed. Treatment, testing for water treatment needs. And then the next item is, the next action item is research options, cost, funding, and acquisition of backup water resources, including increasing storage capacity. So what that looks like is looking at long-term water. I definitely just read that. So on to the next one. The next hazard category is hurricane and tropical storm hazards. This one is looking at vulnerable trees, inventory and maintain street tree canopies. As you saw with some of the pictures shown, many times in the region, we're having a lot of high wind events. And so we either have a lot of older trees in the region or, and just looking, so basically the action item is to look at the significant tree exposure to hurricane wind forces in Bridgewater. The vulnerability of these trees to wind forces should be monitored by the town to pre-identify potential problem areas prior to pending storms. The next action item is related to vector-borne disease and pandemics. So disaster financial management team. So establish a multidisciplinary team of planning, grant management, and financial management subject matter experts to develop a disaster financial management plan before an incident occurs and help execute it following a disaster. A critical step post-disaster, even if the town does not take this approach pre-disaster. So yeah, we're in the midst of a pandemic right now. And so, we're learning how to kind of work with that and figuring out what are, best practices to move forward and maintain the sustainability of the community. The next action item is in relation to zoning and regulations and climate adaptation. So this one is looking at stormwater management in new development and redevelopment. Include a requirement that new development and redevelopment stormwater management BMPs be optimized for phosphorus removal with nature-based solutions. And so, so that goes through all of the action items, at least for the high level ones. We do have, there will be a draft of the plan available by the town. So you can go through and look at that plan. Just a heads up, it's about 500 pages. So just a heads up if you're in for some heavy reading, but it's a good idea to take a look if you're interested in how to prepare and how the town's going to be prepared. And we also want your your input. So we have a survey that's available. I think we're going to have it open for the next 2 weeks, just to, for folks that end up listening to this recording or tuning into the recording. And for the people here tonight, you can visit this link right here, or take a picture of the QR code here. And yeah, the survey is about 10-12 minutes. We're just asking for your input. This picture right here, I believe this is on Main Street, was taken by one of the survey respondents. And so we're, it's a very raw visual representation of what some of these natural disasters can do in our community, and why it's important that we, do this work to prepare for it. So yeah, if you know someone that may want their opinion or their input heard, then send them this link and they'll be able to take the survey. So thank you. That's all I had for tonight. If you do have any questions or concerns, you can be more than happy to reach out to the Community and Economic Development office in Bridgewater at 508-697-0950, or the email is ced@bridgewaterma.org. And then, reach out, and if you need access to the plan or something, they'd be more than happy to help you. And so that is all for this evening. Thank you to those that are able to join us, and have a good one. So I will be stopping the recording.
All right, thanks, Elijah.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate those that were able to come on. I see Steve. How you doing?
Good, Elijah. How are you?
It's not too bad.
We just had a Conservation Commission meeting, so I was planning on being here at 5:30, but we had a couple items to work with.
Got it.
So.
Okay, well, you can always catch the recording if you need it.
I'm definitely going to tune in and watch it, because it seemed like it had a lot of, key environmental features that I need to be looking at as we kind of look at Bridgewater moving forward. So.
If you watch it many times, I think Elijah gets like residual payments or something.
I wish.
He gets royalties from this?
Exactly.
I'd be doing one
Reruns.
every day.
Yeah, me and him both need that. We got new mouths to feed in the house, so.
Right.
Exactly. I'll put in a good word. We'll see what we can do.
Well,
all right. No, I appreciate
thank you guys.
it. All right.
Yeah, no,
thanks,
I
Lori.
think, yes. You guys have a good night.
All right.
You
See
too.
ya.
Thank you.
Bye.